Yeah, okay. Let the black fly in.
I think they've seen all of us. No, but you can say once you're in the say, I'll come out with you.
Let's get over there to your right. Yeah, let them in.
I don't know. Why don't we just go to the window?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
So, John Lawrence, are you doing good? Are you doing well?
Very well, thank you.
Very well, thank you, Nadine. Yeah, very good.
Awesome. So, almost 2 weeks, and we are in the next year. That went fast, right?
Very.
Yeah, it has gone fast. Yeah,
very quick here. Yeah.
So, have you found lots of records in 2023, Nadine?
Yes.
Too many records.
Too many records, but you usually say you can't have too many records, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. But I have to really look just to slow it down a little bit. And it's like horrible. Every month I'm telling me, Nadine, you're not buying a record. You're not doing it. 2 days later, I need to have this record.
So do you have like a want list of records, stuff that you're after, and that's what you're finding and picking up?
Yep.
Right.
But many times I get recommendations also, and I'm checking these. I'm saying, oh, this is good. And usually I'm getting these kind of messages that, oh, this is very cheap. It's not on the radar on many people's list. And I bought it for $10 like 5 years ago. And you check it up on Discogs and it's now $150.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. I know that feeling.
So that's quite amusing then all the time. So hello, Planet of Platter. Hello, Michael. Hello, everybody. Many people from Germany today. Hey, good evening, everybody who's John. It's never enough. I can't stop. Yeah, it's like an addiction. How is it with you guys? Are you saying no? This month I'm not buying it, and you're keeping your promise?
No. I probably managed about two weeks, maybe.
Yeah, that's a long time.
But I think, like you say, you hear about something, and then suddenly, oh, I've got to have that, and then the hunt is on, and you know.
And the vinyl community is terrible for that, because I'll watch somebody's video and think, oh yeah, that's a tune. I've got to try and get hold of that, and it gets you into a record shop again, and no doubt you find something else as well. So yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking about if it wasn't for like YouTube, Instagram, all of those things, I would be a lot more controlled, I think.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
in that way. I mean, before, so a few years ago, when I got back into records, because I've been living overseas, when I got back here, it was slowly I started getting a few records here and there, but then with social media, it sort of got a bit out of hand, really. But never mind, it's enjoyable. It's a hobby for myself.
So Lawrence, do you sell records? Do you buy stuff, or do you just keep hold of everything, or do you keep something for a little while and then?
No, I usually sell stuff, stuff that didn't really work for me. It's okay, but I don't listen to it at all, or stuff that I just didn't like. I usually get, and when I'm traveling and sometimes see something for a really good price, I might get it, and then I know I can sell it. For a bit. Not necessarily to make much money, but it's fun to have the interactions selling them with people.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And a lot of old stuff which I had, which I didn't really listen to, I got rid of, and that was quite nice.
Yeah.
And there's only 1 or 2 records I've regretted selling, so it's been okay.
Yeah, I understand as well, because I know that there are some people that in the VC, get chatting to them, and they literally hold on to every record. And there's 2 things. First of all, there's only so much money, and so if you're not going to listen to something, you can get rid of it and use the money for something else. But there's only so much space as well.
It's the space. I mean, I would have the floor would have fallen in, I think, if I kept everything. It wouldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, it's already happened. And Hanson Sanchez, he has a record, John, you had the luck of finding, and he found our Sealed Odyssey album came this week from Sweden. Wow. I'm still looking for this one. This is a great album. And John, you found it in Sweden actually as well, right?
Yeah, I found it in Denmark, in Copenhagen. I found it. Yeah, no, it's great. I was you're talking about sort of finds of the year, and I'm just probably going to do a video of that in the next couple of weeks. Pick them up my top 10 finds, but yeah, that was definitely one of them. Yeah, because it's a record I've been looking for a long time.
Yeah, that's a great one. So, John, what were your biggest finds of this year, or your favorite finds? Or
Yeah, well, my best. Well, I suppose there's different ways of looking at that, isn't there? So, you can look at it from the music point of view, you can look at it from the point of collectability, or you can look at it from the point of view of, if you've had a bargain, So, I suppose from a collectability point of view, and I suppose the thing I was most excited about, I found the James Mason album, Rhythm of Life, original copy of that. So that was probably my highlight, I must admit. So this basically came into a shop in Birmingham where I live. About 18 months ago, there was a collection of soul, funk, hip hop, a little bit of jazz. It all came in, and there's probably about 3,000 or 4,000 records, split a mixture of LPs and 12s, and nothing had been priced up. It was all mixed up, whatever. And I was one of the first people there, and the guy just start going through it. And I think that was probably the 4th or 5th record that I came across, like a mint copy of the James Mason record. And obviously, straight away, when he realised what it was, he put a price on it, which I didn't want to pay. But I offered him an amount of money then. And for the next year, I kept going back in and saying, offer still on the table. And after about a year, he said, okay, yeah, you can have it for that. So I got it for the price that I wanted. And it's a great copy as well. So, yeah, brilliant.
Really nice.
Awesome. And Lawrence, what about you?
Well, I had 2. And like you were saying, John, it's records because they're really great and you really wanted them, or records because they're a really good price. That one I got.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll make it big.
That is a soca record, calypso music. I actually left the price on that, £4, just because I was so pleased with it. It normally goes for at least about 70 quid, sometimes 100 quid. And it's just a lovely tune on this called Can't Let Go, which is a really nice sort of slightly synthy ballad. Really great, and it's very collectible. And I got it initially thinking, oh wow, well, I'll sell that. And then I listened to it and it was amazing. So
the thing is, though, Lawrence, even if you didn't know what that record was and you saw it in a box of records for £4, you're going to buy it on the basis of the cover alone, aren't you?
You reckon? I would have thought, yeah. I mean, especially if it's a soca record, you're like, I'm probably not going to do much of it. But yeah, I mean, the hair does look great, but
it does, yeah.
But my find, or the one I was most pleased with, was Allspice.
Oh, that's a great one.
That's a great record, and it's not a record I find very, very easily. And it was suddenly just there, so I didn't need to think twice about that one. That was
brilliant.
I was very pleased to find.
One day they come along your way. I'm still hoping
they do occasionally, and sometimes they come along, but you just have to stop yourself because it's too expensive. But
absolutely.
But that one was a lovely one to find.
Awesome. Yeah, I was in. I found many records. One of my favorite is from J.J. Barnes, Born Again.
Yeah.
This is from
the one with the stork on the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, really.
Yeah,
nice.
and the baby. That was I was looking for years to find. I actually had 3 copies of this album. I bought every version from Discogs. It was warped, it was scratched, it was like everything. So I always had to send it back. And then actually someone who lives an hour away from me got in touch with me and I said, I have a DJ copy of this record for a very reasonable price, and it was in pristine condition. And so I was very happy to have that one. It's a beautiful record.
Lovely.
Brilliant.
Lovely.
All right. So this time we have the topic soul disco 45s on the budget, right?
Is it just 45s?
I've got LPs. Right, okay, I've got
some 45s. Also albums. I'm not the biggest 45 person, so I would say, Lawrence, why don't you start and show us maybe 1 or 2 records which you recommend and still affordable?
Okay. Well, with an artist to start with, let's start with the classics. Most great artists, original records by them, even the really famous artists, they're still quite expensive. So an original Marvin Gaye album is still expensive.
Yeah.
An original Al Green is not too expensive, but it will set you back a bit. A Curtis album's pretty expensive. Aretha Franklin, all of those. But one man who is always in the cheap bins and is always consistently great is Barry White. And here's just one. I could have picked many, but
I'll make you think.
I got this year.
Yeah.
And And well, it was originally $5.99. I think I paid about the same in pounds now. And this is not perhaps one of his most famous LPs, sheet music. And interestingly, in the lyrics, you can actually buy the bed sheets.
No, you're kidding.
A nice touch.
Do you think if we write to them and want those bed sheets now, they still have them?
Maybe, you never know. I mean, would you want these bed sheets? That's the question you have
I
to ask.
still want these bed sheets.
Yeah, there it is. I don't know actually what. No, I do believe that is a song off the album that you get there. So, an interesting one. And there he is, looking very majestic on the back.
Oh, look at him.
And yeah, pretty much any Barry White album will not cost you much more than £10. And great. I mean, pretty much his whole catalogue is very cheap. There's a few singles which I know are very sought after because there are not very many of them. But the albums, you can always get them. And yeah, he's always great. I mean,
so is that your Barry White album of choice? That one?
Well, this was the one I got most recently, and it's a lesser known Barry White one.
It is, yeah.
And I quite like it because there's a tune on here which is not a love song. It's not for romancing, but it's pretty funky, pretty good groove. Yeah. So that's why I knew that one. That's why I picked it up when I saw it. And yeah, lovely.
Awesome, Lawrence.
You can't go wrong with Barry White. Can't go wrong.
Can't really. No.
How much did you pay for it? Do you remember?
I think it was about £5 or £6. Yeah. Okay. Much. Yeah.
But the sheets went with it.
No sheets, sadly. No.
I loved it. They had so great ideas marketing-wise for this. You could order these sheets. I always wanted to sleep in Barry White sheets. Who wouldn't?
Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's pretty much the coolest thing I've seen all week. That is, Laura. Absolutely. Yeah. No, my favourite of his is the Stone Gone album. That's one of his early ones. Yeah, that's a cheap one. You see it everywhere. It must have sold a shed load, you know. And I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? You know, the records are so cheap because they sold so many copies. There's so many, you know, you can find them anywhere. You know, whether it be used record shops or car boot sales or charity shops, they're everywhere, aren't they? You know, and I don't think you can go wrong with any of his records.
No, I mean they've all got something on them, definitely. And even ones which are like a bit too cheesy for me, there'll always be one tune which is really groovy.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, and he actually got through disco pretty well as well. You know, obviously most people, when he got to the disco area, that sort of late 70s disco area, a lot of the sort of classic soul artists struggled a little bit, whereas his music was almost geared up for it. He just wrote it out, you know.
And with the whole orchestral sound that he had, everything suited itself very nicely to it. So he had the right people with him. So, and he knew what he was about. So yeah, an interesting guy, definitely.
Absolutely. John.
I've picked out LPs as well. So, and I've just tried to pick out, similar to Lawrence, really, some really quite obvious artists, stuff that you can find really easily, and it's at a good price. So is anybody a Rick James fan?
Oh,
like a bit of Rick James?
Nobody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit undecided on Rick James in general, you know. So I've got several of his records. Most of them are pretty hit and miss. Obviously, this is the famous one. Here we go. Yeah. So where am I? Street Sounds. This is the one with Super Freak on it, which obviously MC Hammer sampled, whatever. For you can't search this, whatever. But that's a great record, you know. Sorry, I confused myself because I'm backwards on my video. But there you go. So, but that's good. But the one I'm going to pick out is the one that he made before that. So. And that's this album. This is called Garden of Love. Yeah. This came out in 1980. And what I like about this album is that it's not as full-on funk as all of his other records. It's a little bit more laid back. It's a little bit more chilled out. And I think this is probably my favourite Rick James record, you know. So I first heard about this through a Motown compilation. I think it was a Motown disco comp. And it had the track Big Time on it, which was quite a big tune, I think, from 1980. Where we go, there you go. And Yeah, but I mean that's perhaps not representative of the rest of the record, because that's quite full on. It's a bit of a disco tune, but the rest of it is just laid back. There's a track on here called "Getting It On in the Sunshine," which is a little bit P-funk, but it's that laid back, very sort of relaxed P-funk. It's a little bit yeah, you know what you're getting straight away just with that P-funk vibe, which is sort of ripped off. But I think this is a great record. And I read about this. I think it was an interview with Questlove, who was talking about it, and that made me pick it up. And yeah, bang on. I think this is his best record, and you'll get it for less than a tenner.
Wow, that's great.
Well, that sounds interesting. That one, I don't know that one.
On these the party records, do you still find one in good condition, or is it more like being partied with?
Yeah, I think most of his records are that type of stuff, aren't they? That they are pretty much full-on funk party records. This one I see about quite a lot, street sounds, and it's normally beat because, as I say, it's got a few big tunes on here. This is the one that sold quite a bit, I think, but this is a decent copy. But again, you get that for less than a tenner, and you can't go wrong with that. But yeah, I think his records sometimes are just a bit excessive. I suppose his music was a little bit like how he lived his life. You know what I mean? It's just pretty full on. I'm sure you've heard all the stories about Rick James, but this is a great record. It really is good, and yeah, I think there's not a bad track on it actually. So yeah, I think it's only sort of 7 or 8 tracks, but yeah, really good stuff.
I can imagine that you find some strains of white powder on the covers.
Yeah, he had that vibe going on, didn't he, Rick James?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Okay, so I picked up the Jones Girls.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, that was their debut album on, I'll make myself big for a short moment, the debut album of Philadelphia International. And the 3 Degrees left because of some financial problems with Philadelphia. And the Jones Girls were actually the replacing group of the 3 Degrees. And this is from the beginning to the end, an absolutely stunning record. Unfortunately, only I think Cheryl is the one who survived. The other ones, a car accident and I think cancer. So she's the only one who survived. And I also can you get this price wise between 5 to 10 euros. It's very, very affordable. And I also got for $5 the 12-inch version of "You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else," which I think is the biggest hit on this record, and it's a great version. So if you find in the stores the 12-inch versions of songs you love, go and grab them. Most of the time you get remixed versions or versions who haven't been released otherwise. So I'm really getting into the 12-inch because they are still very, very affordable.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. If you want to do it on a budget, 12 inches is the way to go, really. You can get lots of great stuff on 12-inch, and it's but the Jones Girls are quite hard because a lot of their albums are quite expensive, and some of their 12 inches as well. But I think that one's a bit more affordable.
That
certainly
was €5 in the dollar bin.
Oh, that's cool. But some of their other ones I know are quite expensive.
But we were saying before about 12s in general, so they often sound better than the album versions because, you've got a whole side of music to, just to spread the track over. And so you normally got a lot more bass, a lot punchier. Yeah. It's like the audiophile version of disco tune, isn't it? Absolutely. And it costs you a $5. Brilliant.
That's so great, John. So every time you're getting asked, is there an audiophile version of a soul and disco album? We can easily say, yes, of course, buy the 12-inch.
Buy the 12, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's the way to go. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, and Dennis, I have the Peace with Woman album. That's also a great album. Isn't that the album that featured Nights Over Egypt? I think so.
It looks like it does. Is that? I think the one with Nights Over Egypt is where they're wearing red.
Yeah, and I think there were
on the one where they look like they're in Egypt, but it's not with Nights on the Egypt.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So what else do we get? Okay, guys, if you're wondering why we are not playing so much music today, we are trying to see how it works without the clips because YouTube got in touch with me. They're not so happy with me playing all this music.
Really?
So we try to figure that out a little bit, and If you guys missed the music clips in between, I worked something out to make it possible, because you really have to time, and you really have to have spoken parts between the songs, so YouTube is not having the impression that you're streaming music you're not owning. And there, even if you explain to them, hey, I'm making advertisement, I don't want to earn something with this, it's just for the artist, they say, yeah, but you're not the owner of the music. So yeah,
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. Lawrence, please keep
Okay,
them.
well, speaking of 12 inches, this is a record which is it's an LP, it's an album. But the big tune on the album is available on a very cheap 12-inch, which is very nice. This is Wayne Henderson.
Right.
Emphasized, it's called. Didn't cost me too much. It was about £10, I think. But the 12-inch you can get for less than £5 of the tune Dancing Love Affair. Just a great pop soul song, very cheerful, makes you feel happy. And Wayne Henderson's great. I mean, all of the stuff, he's on loads of stuff. That record I was showing before, the Allspice record, that's him doing the production. And this is an interesting one because it's just him. It looks a bit like a hip hop album from the 2000s, this cover.
Exactly. The Notorious B.I.G. revised.
Something like that. But it certainly doesn't sound like it. He's playing his trombone on it a lot. But yeah, the tune Dancing Love Affair it just makes me smile, and it's very joyful music. And you can get it on a very cheap 12-inch as well, which is great. I was looking for the 12-inch and I ended up finding this instead. But yeah, I love it. And I was just listening to it just now. And there's some great stuff on that album. I really liked it. And yeah, not a particularly expensive one, although I did look it up. And some people do seem to spend quite a lot on it. People have spent like 30. People were selling it for like €30 and things like that. But
I have never heard of him. John, do you know him?
I know him. I don't know that album though.
He's from the Crusaders. He's from the Crusaders.
Yeah,
he's the trombone player, but he did lots of productions. Him and Augie Johnson, I kind of get them confused because they're the same. And so a lot of Allspice, that one, Side Effect, all of those. He seems to be involved in all of those things. So a lot of great sort of that sort of funky, jazzy, slightly two-step, late 70s kind of thing. That sound, and it's really, really nice. I really love that one. You
mentioned the Crusaders there, and that's another band, but they made some great records, and their records are always cheap. You know, you never pay too much money for a Crusaders 12 or LP, and they're all worth picking up if you see them cheap. You know, you get them for $5 or something. Yeah, most of them. Some of the early ones a bit more expensive, but yeah, great records.
Yeah, no, they're always good. They're some of the, like I had a few Crusaders records which I'd inherited, which it's always a good way to start. And it wasn't always totally my thing, but as you go and explore more, and there's other stuff. There's some really great funky stuff. So yeah,
and I suppose that's the thing with a lot of jazz sort of artists is that even the guys that collect the big money jazz records. I personally don't, and I find this strange actually that when people talk about jazz records, they talk about the album as a whole rather than individual tracks. Because and I often find even the big jazz albums and a lot of the Blue Note stuff, I tend to find some of those records quite uneven because some of them, some of the tracks they will rely on reworkings of classic songs, and quite often you'll have a couple of absolute bangers on there, and then you've got a standard, and they do a version of a standard, whatever. So I often find some of the great jazz albums quite uneven, but still people tend to talk about the album as a whole rather as a piece of piece of art or piece of music as a whole rather than each individual track. And the Crusaders are certainly guilty of that as well. They tend to dance through different styles on the same record, So you might get an absolute jazz funk banger, and then you're onto something really quite slow and syrupy, quite often.
Usually they have like a big single with lyrics and everything, and you can get into it. And the rest of the album is a bit more.
Yeah, they kind of built the album around the single, so we have some leftovers. So let's talk about jazz records. My love-hate relationship with Bitches Brew. I tried. I'm totally honest with you. I tried to listen to this album 20 times, and everybody's kind of says this is the greatest album. This is perfect, and I listen to it, and I can't. For me, I can't listen to this. What about you?
So I bought Bitches Brew back in 1997 because Radiohead's album OK Computer came out, and Tom York in an interview was basically saying that Bitches Brew was a big influence on the record, and he was playing it a lot in the studio at the time. So I thought, you know, I recognise the title, I recognise the artwork, I'll buy it. I think I bought it on CD at the time or something, you know, and I do like it, but the whole thing is just too intense. I can never listen to it from start to finish. So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. It's not necessarily an easy listen, but yeah, I say just to sit down and listen to it in its entirety for me, just too much. So I don't think I've ever done it. You know, I've tried to listen to it, you know, many times over the years, but I've never. I don't think I've ever finished it in one sitting.
I struggle with a lot of jazz. I mean, a lot of the Latin music I have is quite jazzy, and there's lots of soul music I have which is quite jazzy. But yeah, I know that feeling of when an album feels like homework. Yeah, it's hard work, and like you should be sitting down and taking notes. I've got a few albums like that, and I'll try it. But yeah, I'm the first to admit that when it comes to jazz, I don't know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, fair enough.
No, that's it. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I mean, I suppose a lot of it comes down to how you listen to music as well. I mean, I very much, obviously, I do listen to albums in their entirety, but I do tend to, you know, pick tracks and, you know, go from track to track from different records rather than just sit and listen to an album from start to finish. I'll tend to, like, after this, I'll play some records and I'll play a track off one LP and I'll stick a 12 on or whatever, you know. So I suppose jazz is very much geared up to you sitting down and listening to the you know, the piece of music as a whole, you know, the whole record. Whereas, you know, I tend to just pick tracks off stuff. You know, I'm a bit ADD like that.
No, definitely. I like to just sit down, have a drink or whatever, and then just play, make a huge mess in the living room with records everywhere, a bit here, a bit there.
Yeah, but that's the way to go. Nowadays, you have the inner sleeves and outer sleeves and dust-free and everything. Back in the days, the records were all over the floor and nobody really cared if your dog is walking over it or not. And nowadays, oh my God, you're using the wrong inner sleeves. Yeah. And you're right, Hansen Sanchen. Taste is subjective. That's totally true. That's totally true.
Absolutely.
So, John.
Is it going to me? Okay, right. Okay, yeah. So, right. Okay, so, yeah. So I'm going with Steve Arrington's Hall of Fame from 1983. I think this is it on Atlantic? Yeah, on Atlantic. So Steve Arrington was in the band Slave. So they had some hits in the late 70s, early 80s. I think he was actually the drummer in the band. I mean, look at that cover, though. That's a terrible cover, isn't it? Look at that.
It's terrible.
Some call it art.
Maybe, yeah. But it's, But the album's good, and every track is good as well. It's a record that's been sampled a lot. I know that A Tribe Called Quest sampled the tune Weak at the Knees. I think NWA might have done it as well. But yeah, it's a great album. This is a sort of record you'll find for less than a fiver. I say it's that early 80s sort of boogie funk type sounds. Yeah, and if you like the Slave albums, you'll like that definitely. I say not a bad track on it. I say he was a drummer in Slave, and I think as time went on, his vocals came to the forefront. So I think he sang on a couple of their hits. They had hits with tunes like "Watching You" and "Just a Touch of Love." You might know as well. But yeah, this is despite the awful cover, this is a really good record. Yeah, an excellent record.
Nice.
So we learn once again, never judge a book by its cover.
That's right. So basically, I knew that. So a long time before I bought that album, I knew the name because Steve Arrington had a top 10 hit in the UK, 1985, and I remember as a kid this song coming out, a song called "Feel So Real," which is a great tune, and that's off the follow-up album. That's the follow-up, which again you'll find for less than a fiver. This is called "Dancing in the Key of Life," but yeah, this is a bit more poppy. That's the album that I showed previously is a bit more. You know, it's a bit more funk, basically, yeah. But still, this is still a good album. I do like his voice. Yeah, really like his voice. But, yeah, a couple of cheap records, those, and worth picking up if you see them for less than a fiver.
Awesome.
There you go, yeah.
Awesome. So you guys showing some records I have never heard of. So that's so cool. And they are affordable and they're available. I'm so stunned by it. Okay. I choose one of my favorite albums. I'll make myself big. Hold on for a minute.
I thought the topic was affordable records, cheap records.
Yes.
That's not cheap records.
Well, now are you saying that this is? I didn't pay so much for it. How much is it now? And it's widely. If you go to record fairs, especially Den Bosch, I have seen it in many bins for €10.
Really? Blimey.
Yeah.
No, it's in this country probably around £40-50.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I paid about £30 for my copy. Don't know, about 6-7 years ago. Yeah.
You should really go to them. You'll find them in the bins very often.
Yeah. Although Nadine, my copy is nicer than yours because it hasn't got all that writing on it.
Yeah, I tried to remove it desperately, but it couldn't get off. So Ron Matlock unfortunately passed away, I think this year or last year. And he only made this one album, and he was a very shy guy. And the backing group, Brandy, who also worked with James Brown, and so they got into the studio and I looked at him and said, "This guy can sing? We don't think so." And when he started to sing, they were blown away. And back in the day, this album didn't do much, but it's an absolutely beautiful record from the beginning to the end. I can only repeat myself. I think the big hit, which became later a hit, was I Can't Forget About You. This was a great hit, and also Backstreet. Yeah. When I've seen it, I'm sorry, it was affordable, between €5 to €10. So the next time I see it, I buy all the copies.
Buy all the copies, Nadine. Get them all. Yeah, absolutely.
And I send it to you as a VCLT. So
I saw a sealed copy for, I think it was £70.
70.
Yeah. It's a great, the thing is, and it's true of a lot of soul records in this country, if there's a particular scene where a certain record is really sought after, it'll be really expensive. And in the two-step smooth, like mellow soul collectors, that's like one of the must-have records. So it's really expensive now, that one. But if you go on the continent, or if you go to the States, it's like you say, it's $10, €10, whatever. But here,
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Looking for records. I mean, so I speak to different people about reggae and whatever. Obviously, being in Birmingham, same with yourself, Lawrence, you'll find reggae records quite easily. Yeah. However, in other parts of the world, you just don't see this stuff at all. So, and it's the same for us with soul records quite a lot of the time. Some of those albums where there's clearly loads of copies about in the States. Over here, we're all fighting over the same copies, aren't we?
Yeah.
Paying up for them,
But you find copies in your record stores in the UK, which I would never find up here in Germany.
Yeah.
I always think the same thing about Germany and Sweden, particularly.
Yes, Denmark. Yeah. They have the Alice Clark, the only album she did. In Sweden, you'll find this quite often. Here in Germany, I've never seen it. And this one got quite expensive.
When I went to Copenhagen earlier in the year, I went to a shop and he had 2 copies of the Alice Clark album. Two original copies.
Never seen in a German store even one copy of this album. Never, just a reissue.
It's interesting though. So what I understand is that if you go to Sweden, for example, there's so much soul and funk vinyl in Sweden. I went to Stockholm years ago now, probably 10, 12 years ago, and I was amazed at how much soul and funk vinyl there was. And what I understand is that deletion copies of LPs from the States was used as ballast on ships. And so basically all these records were just seen as junk, used as ballast, and they all ended up in sort of mainland Europe. It's fascinating. And now they're all knocking around there for whatever money, it's good.
Oh, Alice Clark on eBay for €600.
Yeah, I think actually the copy that I saw, I think he wanted more than that. I think it was more like €700 he wanted, which obviously I wasn't going to pay. But I did enjoy seeing the records, put it that way. So
I saw it once in Yo-Yo Records in London, which is, as I've mentioned before, is just like a museum. So you can look at all the records, but you can't really buy any of them.
I'm following their Instagram account because I think YouTube recommended me to do so, and I've seen the pictures of the wall, and I was like, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that. But
the thing is, they change the whole wall. Is it every week or every few days? So
I think so. Yeah.
last time I was in there, I went in and the wall was just all rare gospel, so just full of gospel music. And then I follow him on Instagram as well, and you'll see just classic funk or P-funk or whatever. It's always got a theme to it. It's so cool.
It's great. The problem is I go there every few months, but quite often I go there and it's the same stuff that they had before, because the big ticket numbers on the wall, they change and they go, but the sort of more normal stuff, they don't sort of get through it so easily. So if you go with a blank check, that's the way to do it. Basically, bottomless pockets. But no, they're very nice in there as well. They're very friendly, but yeah, it's expensive, sadly.
But saying that, Lawrence, a shop like that is great because every time you go in there, you learn about something new.
Oh, definitely.
So you'll see records on the wall, many of which you know well, or you've coveted, or you want sort of thing. But then there's always records there where you think, well, I'm not sure what that is. So you perhaps look it up, you find out a little bit about it, and it's the same principle as watching YouTube videos, isn't it? You're learning something new, and it's
definitely.
No,
they're pretty cool about you can listen to anything and everything. So, you might not be able to own it, but you can listen to it for a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a bit like Train Spotting, isn't it? Really,
it is.
You're just like ticking it off your list. I've seen it.
So Hanson Sanchez, is there a contact to the product management of Discogs? Discogs would be interesting to prepare and discuss our concerns with the platform. Hanson Sanchez, I do think this would be worth a whole stream. I know for sure because I met the CEO of Discogs in Haarlem in the Netherlands, and I discussed the scammers. I discussed the problem with what is VG Plus and all of this. They're quite aware of this, but I think there are some reasons they're not able to change it at the moment. So I'm trying to go into the stores, and I'm trying not to buy from Discogs anymore because I don't know about you guys, but I had very, very few good experience with Discogs.
No, I've been okay, but I do it a lot less now. Yeah, I mean, I've had a few disappointing experiences, but most of the time it's been okay, I would say. And occasionally, I mean, I've been really lucky. I've had really, really tough grading. Like they've undergraded a record, so it's actually a lot better condition than they said it was. So it depends, doesn't it? I mean, it's hit and miss. That's the problem, isn't it? Because you can't see the record yourself, the actual record, and all of that sort of problem.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue, and the advantage of eBay is that you can see actually the record on a picture, and most of the time they're high quality pictures, so you can see that. So yeah,
I think that's the. I've just seen that comment there. That's a great album, Edge of Daybreak. Yeah, so I think Numero put out a reissue of that a few years ago, which is really nice.
And it's super rare. I don't think that at least 1 or 2 copies were sold on Discogs ever, or never sold one. This is a great album. So congratulations, Mega Blaster. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If you got the reissue or the original, both is great.
Yeah, very cool. No, but I don't tend to buy too much on Discogs. I find it ridiculous, the fact that you can't put photographs on there. So it's so straightforward. If you're buying something from a seller on eBay, it's up to them. They can put on however many pictures, or however the detailed pictures they want to put on, so the buyer can clearly see what they're going to get. Discogs, just a one-liner or just a VG plus grading, it means nothing really, does it? So, but I'm quite lucky. I've got quite a lot of record shops around here, all of which get stuff in, and I keep in touch with them. And when there's any soul or funk in, I go and have a look. So it's good.
And I don't understand that it's not possible for Discogs to implement this feature. I don't get it that sellers are not able to upload pictures. I do understand when dealers or sellers say, listen, I have a whole pack of records. If you want the pictures to all of these records, I need to hire someone to do this, and I can't afford this. I do get that. And I also do get the fact that people say, listen, you requested a picture for a $5 record. I'm not going into the storage, taking it out, making the pictures for $5. I totally get that point. But on some other records, I would really, really appreciate if they would make this feature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lawrence, I think you are the next in line.
Okay. All right. Well, I think this year, very sadly, Linda Lewis passed away.
Yeah.
And she's always great. And these two records are becoming a bit more expensive actually now. But they're great. I love this one, Fathoms Deep. But I was going to show this one.
Yeah.
I've actually got it twice.
Oh, yeah.
The two different covers.
Covers, yeah.
I'm actually trying to sell. I was trying to sell this one, but no one would buy it off me because it's too cheap.
Right.
So I was trying to sell it with a load of other stuff. But yeah, it's just wonderful. I love Minnie Riperton, and she's kind of like a British version of that, if you could say, because it's got that kind of sweetness and optimistic sound, quite sort of a lot to do with nature and cheerful. By all accounts, she was a very nice lady as well. And I don't know if all of her records are like brilliant all the way through, but there's always brilliant stuff on all of them. And I love Linda Lewis. So that's my recommendation. And if you're here in the UK, certainly, nearly all of her. I mean, that's a £5 sort of thing. And there are other ones. They're slowly creeping up. I've seen people trying to sell Lark for like 30 quid. I don't know why, because you can find it everywhere.
It's a cheap record, Lark, isn't it? And I think that's the best record, Lark. Yeah,
I mean, it's very it's a very British record, I think, because it's quite got the kind of folky side to it, perhaps more than any of our other records.
And that's the thing. I don't know where. I think it might have been Giles Peterson. I heard talking about it, and I went out and got a copy. It was only probably a £5 I think I spent on it, and it wasn't what I was expecting when I first played it, because of that sort of folky vibe that it's got going on. And it's one of those records that I persisted with and just kept listening to, and it really got under my skin then, you know. So yeah, it's a lovely record. Yeah, no, I think all of her stuff has always got something worth in it. I mean, I think even this one, is it Lark? It's just at the end, it's just got this nice little live song from a concert. It's just amazing. It's brilliant. Yeah. Little Indians.
I love Overboard. She did that the kind of disco record. And I love that from Linda. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think she did. Had like Gene Page or someone doing the arrangements and things like that. That was one of the later ones. But yeah, all of our stuff you can find certainly here. I'm sure elsewhere. It's not expensive at all, and it's always very rewarding, I think.
So guys, we are up for a Christmas stream. Doug, we do that next year around the same time.
Yeah. I have no Christmas records at all. I was thinking
Christmas records on the budget.
I don't have any. I was looking through. I think there must be a song about Christmas in here somewhere. I couldn't find one.
There was a James Brown Christmas album. I always wanted to have that, but you can't afford it. It got so expensive. Yeah.
I mean, there are some great soul and fun Christmas albums. I mean, the Sharon Jones and the Dapkins album that came out, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, is fantastic. It's a brilliant sort of holiday season album. It really is good. Yeah. That's one that gets played here every year.
Soul Christmas, yes.
I sold my Soul Christmas records. I just couldn't listen to it.
That's the thing with Soul Orchestra. I love the record, but the thing is, if you heard one, you heard them all, and you're at a certain point you're done with it. That's my problem with Soul.
And all the songs are joined together on it. It's like Stars on 45. It just keeps going into it's awful. It's awful.
That's been my thing actually this year. When I've got the record in my hands and I can feel that tingle in my belly telling me that I'm going to buy this record, I actually take a moment, take a breath, and I think, am I going to listen to this record more than once? And if the answer is no, then I put it back. Yeah. And it's done quite well. I usually find something else instead. But yeah.
All right, John, you're up next.
Am I up next? Am I right? Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So, what have I got? Let me just grab some records. Right. Okay. So again, very obvious, but so I'm gonna get it out of the plastic. Hang on. Right. So Rufus and Chaka Khan. I love Chaka Khan. She's one of my favourite vocalists. All of her records are pretty cheap. This one, their second album from 1974, Rags to Rufus, I just think is an absolutely killer soul funk record. A little bit rocky in places as well. Obviously, this has got their massive tune on it, Tell Me Something Good, which was written by Stevie Wonder. And I think what's interesting about that actually is that Stevie offered them a song, and Chaka Khan, she heard it and she said, "Nah, that's not good enough. Have you got anything better than that?" And he was like, "Oh, right, okay." And he came back with "Tell Me Something Good," which is obviously their most famous song, I suppose. That and Ain't Nobody. Yeah, and obviously I suppose that really set off their career, didn't it? But I think this is a great record. You'll get it for less than a tenner. I think you'll get most of their records for less than a tenner. And today, I've played 3 or 4 of their albums today. And the one that I really enjoyed is a late 70s record. There we are. Street Player, yeah, which I think is a nice record as well. Great sleeve, great gatefold sleeve there, as you can see.
Cool.
Yeah, but I hadn't heard this one for a long time, and I really enjoyed that one today, particularly the opening track. Yeah, really good stuff. So lovely stuff.
Perfect, John. So you ruined my next choice.
But that's it, Nadine. All of her solo records are cheap as well. I mean, she made great records throughout. Yeah. Throughout the 80s. She recorded with Prince in the late 90s, early 2000s. She's just put out, a few years ago now, a brilliant record with that tune Like Sugar on it, which samples.
Yeah, this is so great. Oh my God, if you see it, it's great.
Yeah, so, she's consistently made great records. She's got that same thing that Aretha had going on, that ability to layer her voice on her recordings. And it's just an incredible sound. I mean, obviously, all of these records I'm showing here are her with Rufus the band, but she was certainly the star of the show. And I think her records are fantastic. And same as Steve Arrington, she also started off as a drummer as well, didn't she? So.
Yeah, Chaka is the queen. Yeah, also. And Ivan Music Man, I like to have a Pointer Sisters record on your wall, Nadine. I think you meant this one. Yeah. Also, very, very cheap, very affordable. They have been sold in the millions. You easily find them.
Yeah.
But that was so. I have to switch now because John ruined my Chaka Khan moment. Totally rightful because Chaka Khan. So that would be my pick. So you can easily find this one very cheap. It's a brilliant record. And it wasn't a hit back then, but during the last couple of decades, people really cherish it. And in my opinion, it's Dusty's best work. And you pay between 5 to 10 euros for this. Dusty is my pick.
Can you really get it that cheaply now? 5 to 10 euros?
Yeah. I mean, I am out of the UK. You must be getting her records even easier than me.
Well, we see a lot of her records around, but that one is always quite expensive.
She's very well loved, so
she is. Yeah,
doesn't last long in the shops. That one. Yeah.
And the thing is, as well, that record in particular, and so I always find it frustrating when you read these lists of the best albums ever made, the best 100 albums you must hear before you die, sort of stuff. And there are normally very few soul records in those lists. It tends to be rock focused. And when they do put soul records in, they tend to pick the same ones. So Dusty in Memphis, What's Going On, etc. So, those albums don't just appeal to soul fans. You've also got rock fans who are reading these lists, going out and trying to find copies as well, which pushes the price up even more, So, but her other album, the album that she made after that with Gabble and Huff, that's a cheap record, and that's a really good record. Yeah. Yeah,
and that was in the beginning of the Philadelphia sound. So I really like. So guys, I'm sorry. So this was my second pick, which was not on the budget because I bought this for 10 euro in a record shop up here in Germany. It has a punch hole. You see some writing on it, but you can see I'm totally crazy about this album because I tried to find out every still living person who was working on this album to sign this record.
Wow.
So,
nice.
That's how crazy I am about this Dusty record. But I'm sorry if it got more. Really, I paid 10 euros for this, and even the cover isn't in the best condition. But wow, I didn't know that.
I think you got a bargain. I can't find a US copy, whether it be a first press or a slightly later press, for less than £30 at the moment on Discogs.
Wow. Okay.
I think what you say though, John, is true, because when sort of more sort of rock and pop Q magazine readers get into things, then it gets expensive. That's why anything with a whiff of disco generally won't get that interest, because people just think, oh no, it's too disco, and they'll reject it. So it'll still be a lot more affordable. Anything that's out of the sort of time period that's been deemed to be the classic period, anything that's a bit more sort of mid to late 70s, people quite often don't give it the time of day when they really should, because there's some great music, I think.
But it's like we're saying about What's Going On. I mean, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On is a fantastic record, but he made so much of the great music as well. But that gets overlooked because of that, you know.
It is true.
But it's difficult finding originals in good condition of Let's Get It On. What's going on, finding it in good condition is very difficult. I hardly see I Want You.
Yeah.
So finding these major albums is like, I have seen a original pressing of What's Going On, VG Plus, for over 100. And I was like, this has been sold like crazy. And I said, yeah, find one in good condition. Good luck.
Yeah.
I got one probably about 6 years ago for £1. An original UK copy. I don't think it was an original actually, but it was certainly a 70s copy. At some point, it looks a bit stepped on, but I was very pleased for £1.
Yeah,
that'll do. That'll do. But yeah, no, now suddenly it's just become really expensive, and even reissues of it are really expensive.
Yes, because I think that has a lot to do with the whole vinyl hype, and like a list like records you should have in your collection. I think this is one thing of this. So Mega Blaster, if you love soul, disco, and all these genres, you should also feel connected to some house, some genres in house music or not. I absolutely do. What about you guys?
I grew up at the time when house music was very popular, and I hated it. So I've got this kind of what would you say? This prejudice against house music. But when I go back and I listen to some of the things, particularly stuff which doesn't have the typical monotonous house beat which I was accustomed to, there's some really good stuff with that sort of early, slightly clunky drum machines, but really good. And I've got a couple of things which could be considered house, and I really like them, but I didn't think of them as house records. I just thought of them as like dance music from the 80s or something like that. But yes, that I think sort of in the mid 90s when it was house, lots of people playing house, I didn't really care for it very much, I have to say.
I love the connection. Larry Levant was a DJ in the Paradise Garage, and Frankie Knuckles and all of this. I think Frankie Knuckles was in Chicago House and Warehouse. That's actually where the word house music comes from, when they were kind of mixing disco music and developed a whole new genre. I do especially like these early 80s house mixes. So let's just get back briefly to what's going on. Are you guys all familiar with the Detroit mix?
It's good. Yeah.
I love it. I think it came out on a Japanese label on a vinyl, but this is like 100 or 200 euros to get the Detroit mix on vinyl. So it's very soulful. The Detroit mix is very, very, in my opinion, so soulful. I prefer the original because I kind of grown up with it, but from time to time I love listening to the Detroit mix.
Is it noticeably different?
Yes.
The interesting thing as well with What's Going On, the single versions are often, when it's got album tracks on the B-side, they're often different mixes. So it's worth, and the 45s are cheap when you see them about. So pick them up, because you'll find that when it has got a track on the B-side, it will be a different mix to what's on the album.
Yeah. So, and you have to consider, I think What's Going On was written by one of the guys from the Four Tops, and the Four Tops didn't want to sing it because it was so political. So Marvin Gaye released the single, and very gaudy said, well, it's successful. We're wondering, because it's political, can you do an album around this? And that's how the creation of What's Going On was happening. Super interesting story.
I mean, I think you'd struggle to find a better vocalist than Marvin Gaye. I mean, his vocals were just perfect. And all of those 70s records that he made, they're all worth picking up, aren't they? Even into the 80s, right up to his death, you know.
Also, Hear My Dear. Hear My Dear is totally underrated, and it's a great album.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's now become a bit more expensive, but
yes.
But yeah, it's one that takes a bit more listening to, a bit more time, but it's not an album of individual tracks that you could enjoy so much, but it is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the albums that you put out in the early 80s as well are really nice. So is it In Our Lifetime?
Yeah.
That's a nice one. See what I was thinking of. But yeah, no, very nice. But as you say, Hear My Dear, I mean, even if only for the track, When Did You Stop Loving Me, When I Stop Loving You? I mean, that is just an incredible song. One of his best. Really is, you know. So
highlight of the album.
There's a live album from the 80s as well, from when he was touring Europe, I think. And it's okay. The sound's not great. But there's some versions of I think the version of God Is Love is just amazing. Yeah. It's just absolutely like jaw-dropping. Just him.
Yeah, there are many bootlegs from his recording, like people with their tape recorders. The sound is awful, but it's interesting to hear. I prefer my favorite one is Not Live in the Palladium. He did one live 1974.
Yeah,
where
that's a
people
great record.
Screaming like Distant Lover. Oh my God, it knocks you off your feet. So Jason is saying, as the Marvin Gaye What's Going On OG gets pricey, the What's Going On Mo-Fi One Step may be worthwhile to buy. Jason, I think this is a 200 to 300 euro record, the One Step now, because it's totally out of print.
Wow.
So might be difficult.
No, I say the album that I'd recommend, I think, does get overlooked. So it's early 80s, is In Our Lifetime. And that's I only picked that up 3 or 4 years ago, and it's a brilliant record. It's a full-on party record. Really good.
It's his last Motown album, and
that's
right.
You can get for like it's not expensive. It'd be about 10, 15 pounds maybe, and that's a fantastic record. Really good. All of it, because it's not got the synthesizers yet, so he's still just doing Marvin in the place, and it's a bit disco, not quite disco, but it's quite dancey, like it is a party album. But I think that's really good, that album.
I like the way he name checked Stevie Wonder on the opening track, because he rips off his what song does he rip off? I can't think now. But so he sort of thanks him, doesn't he, halfway through the song for letting him rip off his tune, you know. Brilliant.
That was
quite playful, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah. Oh, good old Marvin. Okay, Lawrence, I think it's your turn, right?
Okay. Well, I think we were talking about it earlier. If you're doing things on a budget, the best way is the 45s. Go for the 45s, because they can be very cheap and very cheerful. And this is one I got very recently. Sadly, the postman had a bit of a fight with my letterbox, so it now has a hairline crack in it, but it still plays okay. A very unpromising looking record. B&G Rhythm is the name of the group, and the song here is their version of Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I haven't actually played it because I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the B-side, which is what's usually the best thing about 45s. This is just an instrumental called Friends, You and I, which, if you like that kind of slightly mellow jazz funk thing with those, it's not a synthesizer exactly, but you'd know the sound if you heard it. And it's been cheering me up in the cold winter months, definitely. I love this. And Polydor 45s, always worth checking out. A lot of them are very expensive, but when they're good, they're really good, and you can get some decent ones. There's so many great artists that were on Polydor, And if you can get some 45s, this is one I've been enjoying a lot lately.
Awesome. John is already checking out on Discogs.
I am. I don't know that tune. I don't know that tune.
No, I didn't know it until I heard it on the radio. There is an LP. I don't know what the LP is like, but there was just that particular tune that I really liked, and then I saw 45, £3. All right. So it was
All
okay.
right.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I'll check that out if John is not buying it before me.
You've got to be quick, Nadine. You've got to be quick.
As often, it's not an expensive one, but it was the only one I could find. I actually got this on Discogs since we were bad mouthing it before, and it was from a guy who has 1 million 45, so the quality was great. I got a couple of other things which are a bit crackly, and this one was fine, but it seems to have been manhandled in the post, sadly, which is a shame.
Sorry to hear that.
So how did you come across that one?
There's lots of people who do like Mixcloud DJs and things like that.
Yeah.
And there's one guy, he's a bit of an eminence in soul music, Tony T. And he does a very nice monthly show, end of the month Rare Groove special. And he played that a couple of months ago, and it's been definitely working for me since then. And actually it was interesting because I was very lucky to go to the Leroy Hudson concert in London.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing. And I could see a lot of my musical heroes, like a lot of DJs and people I knew. I was a bit too shy to go and say hello to them, but I could see lots of famous faces from the scene. And I saw Tony T there, saw a few other people as well. Jay Blades from the Repair Shop. He's always
right.
He's a proper soul man.
Yeah.
So I saw him, and but the concert itself was absolutely fantastic. Him and Leroy Hudson and Sherry Brown. I mean, it's the only concert I've been to this year, but it's
was Sherry Brown supporting? Was she?
Yeah, she was supporting,
wow.
And she was amazing. She did really nice stuff. And then Leroy Hudson must be quite an old guy now.
This Sherry Brown?
Not Shirley Brown, Cherie Brown.
Cherie Brown, okay.
Yeah. No, but Leroy was amazing. I mean, he must be in his late 70s now, and he was just sort of strutting about the stage. The band were really good. They had a really good backing singer as well, who did some of the voices in East Harlem and Arnold Blair songs as well.
Right.
And the crowd was absolutely hyped. It was amazing. It was really, really great. It was one of the best concerts I've been to for a long time. So,
Lawrence, I'm already green from jealousy.
Well, he comes to the UK. I know he'd been to the UK last year or the year before, and I couldn't go that time because I was away or something. I can't remember. But he does tour still, even though he's been around. He's getting on with it, but his voice is still just as sweet, and he's got great songs to sing. And he's one of those artists who, I mean, some of his albums are a bit expensive, but a lot of them aren't actually. And you can get them for 10 quid. Some of them, I mean, some of them are a bit more expensive, but he's one of those artists. He doesn't have like amazing, well-known tunes that everybody knows, but all of his albums have just got great, consistent songs all the way through, and everybody was having a proper sing along. It was amazing. It was quite an emotional concert, I have to say.
Oh my god!
Because I think so I think Acid Jazz have just re-released most of his albums.
Yeah, all of
so they're all available. Yeah,
the reissues are all there. It's good, but you can get even originals and not too bad. I mean,
you can do. Yeah,
I think Hudson 2 is a bit expensive, and
I think his first one where he has the fur over his shoulder. I think that's
on eBay not that long ago for about 15 quid. So it can be done. It can be done.
Yeah.
And some of it's like the one where he's wearing the blue, Feel the Spirit, which is great. That's not
where he's in the mirrors, right? Where he's in this mirror. Yeah.
But he's had an interesting career, hasn't he? So obviously stint with the Impressions and writing with Donny Hathaway, so stuff like Trying Times. I mean, just incredible records.
Yeah, he did The Ghetto with Donny Hathaway as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all of his like his side projects as well. Voices of East Harlem, Arnold Blair.
Yeah.
The Natural Four. It's amazing. It's just yeah.
There you go. I've got a copy of the Ghetto there. You know, that's
lovely.
Oh, of course. Hold on, I'll make you big.
There you go. Great double-sider. Obviously, part 1, backed by part 2. Yeah, perfect.
I prefer the live version, got to say. But
oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
It's great. Yeah. No.
Sorry, Williamson.
No, I've had that live version on a cassette when I was about 14 or 15, on a compilation. And I just remember I used to play it every day. Well, not every day, but I used to play it before I went to school. I love that song so much. It was great. Awesome. Great.
It's a great song. I came across that first on, I suppose, the importance of compilations. There was a series of comps that came out on CD in the mid-90s called Blaxploitation. And like double CDs. And I think the opening track on the first one was The Ghetto. And that just, blew my mind. I mean, this is in the 90s and when it came out 25 years before, but there's me hearing it 25 years later. And just blew my mind. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it is. So, and he started the concert with his, because he did a version of The Ghetto as well. And he started his concert with that.
Did he? Oh, I could have gone home after that. Brilliant.
All right, John. Maybe you short some more. Maybe some singles.
Yeah, I've got some singles here. So basically, I was just trying to think of something as cheap as I could find. So we're talking about inexpensive records now. Nadine, I'm pretty sure you're going to tell me all about this band in a minute because you'll know a lot more about them than me, right?
I don't know.
This group, you will do, yeah. So this is the Imperials.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and basically I collect Stevie Wonder cover versions. So this is a version of Stevie's Another Star from Songs in the Key of Life. And this is a record that you'll find for less than £1. It's, it turns up all the time. I think I've probably got about 5-6 copies of it, and each one I pay like 50 pence for or something. But this is a really nice version. This is late 70s. Yeah, 1978. This is, and just a vocal harmony group. But I really like that song, and I think it's a really nice, tidy little version.
Wow.
So, what do you know about the Imperials then, Nadine?
The Imperials are a great group. They have a tremendous, great career out there. But
as in Little Anthony and the Imperials, or
yes. So didn't they perform with Elvis? Am I right in saying that?
Yes. There were two. There is the Imperials. There's a soul group which is called the Imperials, and the Imperials is also a gospel group. And I hold on. I have there some signed copies of the Imperials gospel albums.
Yeah.
This is actually Elvis' later gospel group, J.D. Sumner and the Stamps. And I was fortunate to get all the signatures of the Stamps later on. But the Imperials is a great group. They worked with Elvis till 1971, I think, or early 1972. And then they decided to do their own thing. But they have some great gospel. The gospel is not as funky as the gospel actually I like, but it is very spiritual.
Yeah.
So
great. So this is what they did later. So when they finished making the gospel records and cut those gospel records with Elvis, sort of 10 years later in 1978, they were knocking out Stevie Wonder cover versions. Yeah. And it's like, this is a B side. The A side is Where You Gonna Find Somebody Like Me, which I think was a reasonable size hit. Yeah. But that's what they did after finishing with Elvis, Yeah.
And I have to admit, I do prefer Elvis singing with the, I'm getting thrown stones at me now, but I do prefer the Imperials as a backing group instead of J.D. Sumner and the Stamps. For me, they were more soulful, but the Sweet Inspirations, who were also backing up Elvis, they cling it to me every time. Yeah,
I love this Sweet Inspirations records. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And they're not expensive either, really.
No, they're not expensive. They're also very affordable. What is more difficult to get is their 1973 album, which they did on Stax. But it's between 20 to 30 euro, but it's not like cheaper at the moment. Yeah. All right, let's get into 45s. I picked this one up because we were talking about house music. So what we do up here is Class Action with Weekend. And one of these singers from Class Action was also, when we hear the tracking of Push in the Bush, she's also singing on this one, and it was heavily sampled. And Larry Levan brought them really fame with The Weeknd. And I think in 1983, this became a huge hit. So, and it's not expensive, and it's a great version of that song. But what I really wanted to point out is a singer who, Poussey Hanson Sanchez, you're correct. Poussey, hold on, I'll make you big. Nice name. Wasn't one of the sweet inspiration. Yes, Cissy Houston. She was part, I think, till 1968 or 1969, I think. So what I wanted to point out is a singer. She only released one album, and after the release of the album and I think 2 more singles, she totally disappeared. Finding an original version of her album, it's very expensive, but you find her 45s on Chess very, very cheap. And this is Joanne Garrett. And this is one which is called I'm So Afraid. And it's she's been backed up by the Dells on many of these records. But I'm So Afraid, I got this for €5, is an absolutely stunning song. And also You Can't Come In is a great one. And in the meantime, she was with Chess. She also got to a record label which was called Do, which was very short-lived. And you can easily get even promo copies of Tell 'Em I Love Him and Can You Deal With It is a classic. Like, I paid €10 for this very cheap single, and stunningly, you find them in very good condition. So for me, these were my single recommendations. If you're into late 60s soul, Joanne Garrett is the place to go.
So Nadine, are you going to play any clips? Because I'd like to hear that.
Your wish is my command, John.
I don't know that, you see. That sounds pretty cool.
Okay, let's listen to I'm So Afraid by Joanne Garrett. Hold on for a second. It all takes time a little bit, because also today we have a premiere. We are streaming on 3 different platforms and trying to see how that works. But so far it works good. All right, hold on. How do I share my screen again? I miss that so much, sharing my screen. Okay, let's see. I'm So Afraid. Hold on, you should see my screen now. Few moments, please. Yes. I love this advertisement thing. I have premium with the, come on. Hold on.
I want someone, but I'm afraid. People have warned me to keep it that way. Everyone has someone but me, and the reason I don't take the chance is I'm so afraid, so afraid. I want to kiss, but I'm afraid. I think I will see more day by day. All my friends have someone to kiss, and the reason I'm acting like this is I'm so afraid.
Here it is.
Like that. Very nice.
Well, I thought
Yeah.
the name was familiar, and she got a very famous, and I've just checked, very expensive album.
Yeah.
With the purple cover, where you're wearing a purple.
Yeah,
hat.
yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those things. Sometimes expensive albums, check for the 45s.
Yeah.
And you might be able to get them.
Yeah, but I'm so afraid you won't find on that album,
Oh, is it not on
unfortunately.
the album? Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately not. But this is, like I said, very cheap 45s, and I love this song.
Nice.
Cool.
All right, Lawrence, your turn. Did you
Alright.
enjoy the clip, John?
I really like that. Yeah, I love it. Lovely
Okay.
stuff.
Perfect. I'm happy.
Okay.
All right,
I'm going a bit 80s now.
please.
A British song, Eye Level.
All right.
We're a group from the 80s, late 80s, I think. No, 1985, it says. In the Sand. Very smooth, kind of mellow soul, but very 80s in its way. But there's something very spacey about this record. I really like it. It's very popular amongst the sort of rare groove crowd, this tune. And it's one of those records on you can get it very easily for a few pounds. And I don't get bored of it. And it comes with a nice picture sleeve, so it's worth showing on here. They did a few sort of boogie numbers. The Minefield, I think, was their most famous song. I remember hearing that on compilations. But then this one is really nice, kind of mellow soul. Lots of heavy bass, the way I like it. And that's a recommendation for me. Bit 80s if that's not really your thing, but that's not a bad thing for us.
That's nice.
Yeah, I like that one. And I don't know what else they did, because there were lots of, they're from that kind of time when what was it, Brit Funk and all of that sort of thing.
Yep.
Perhaps a bit later than like High Tension and all of Light of the World and that sort of thing, but it's very much in that kind of style. And yes, it's an interesting song. So 45.
And yeah, and I say a lot of those Brit Funk records are so cheap, aren't they?
Oh yeah,
you
I'm
mentioned High
sure.
Tension. You can get their records for just a couple of quid, can't you? So absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's one or two which are quite sought after, but on the whole, a lot of the good
Yeah.
stuff, like if you think Light of the World, High Tension, you can get those records without too much trouble, and they're always worth a listen. Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely. I like them.
I like that period.
Yeah, I think there's some good stuff. There's some stuff which goes in with that, which I find a bit of hard work. It doesn't really light me up. But when it's good, it's good, and that's. I mean, I could say that about anything.
I think there was sort of one episode of Top of the Pops where I think that week it was like the pinnacle for Brit Funk, because I think they had like four Brit Funk bands on that week. You had Beggar and Co. You had Central Line and whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think it was a sort of blink and you miss it sort of thing in the sort of mainstream. But a lot of those records just about still stand up. So that's really nice. But yeah, not all of it.
Yeah, not all of it. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, John.
Right. So so this is obviously Northern Soul's a big thing. I'm not the biggest Northern Soul fan. So yeah, that sort of four to the floor thing, that that repetitive thing. Every tune's got a similar sort of feel to it. I get a little bit bored, but what I did like about the whole Northern Soul scene is the way that they claim songs. So this is an R&B tune from the 60s by a band which I think they're out of Nashville, certainly from that sort of area. Johnny Jones and the King Casuals, right? And it's their version of Jimi Hendrix's Purple Haze. So you can see it there. Now this is on the back of the Northern Soul, fans picking up on this. This, like many of those great Northern Soul tunes, were released as a double-sider. So on one side here you've got Purple Haze, Johnny Jones and the King Casuals, and the other side you've got Fred Hughes with Baby Boy. So this is obviously a reissue. You can get this for sort of 8 to 10 quid, I think. I think you'll find it for about 10 quid. So it is a bit more expensive, but it's under a tenner. But if you don't know this, and I don't know whether you can get a clip up, Nadine, Purple Haze by Johnny Jones and the King Casuals, I think that'll go down an absolute treat. It's a proper Saturday night record. Lovely stuff.
By what was the group? Sorry, again.
It's Johnny Jones.
Johnny, that's a name.
Johnny Jones, yeah.
Johnny Jones. JJ is coming up.
JJ.
All right. hold on. I'm sharing my screen again. This was one of the benefits from YouTube, not saying, please stop streaming, getting all this out. But here we are. Johnny Jones, JJ. Oh, come on, skip the advertisement. Perfect. Here we go.
Let's get together and do it. In my brain, everything seems the same. Feeling funny, I don't know why. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Yeah.
Wow. Isn't that cool?
Very nice.
Great. John, you're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
That's not a bad thing.
No. Says your wife.
Absolutely.
All right, so I just wanted to get back a little bit to the sweet inspirations. I actually bought this record at Soul Brothers in the UK, and I'm surprised that I paid so much for it. It was £20, but I'm showing you the picture because this is Sissy Houston, and there she was still a member of the Sweet Inspirations, and the three girls just left. And here's also, hold on, the one I talked about, which was recorded at Stax in 1973, and there's only Estelle is the only one who is remaining from the original lineup, and she was very kind. You might see the reflection to sign this copy. So this is a great one, which I think this gets a little more expensive now. I bought it on a record fair, I think, for €20. But yeah, that was Sissy Houston. All right, I choose a single which you can easily find, which is absolutely not expensive, and you'll enjoy the whole thing. And I'm still trying to get over the fact that John is having the album signed by David Ruffin. You know, this is a once in a lifetime thing John has, and that's so cool. I'm so happy for him. So this is Walk Away From Love by David Ruffin. The first version, and I forgot the name of the group, was this one was produced by Van McCoy, and they're also advertisement because Van McCoy was so big in those days because he did The Hustle, and that was the thing. And and this version was done by a group before, and I totally forgot which the name was, but this was a very soulful version, and Van McCoy redid the song with David Ruffin. You find this for $2 to $3, euros, pounds, because it was, I think, one of his last hits, if not his last hit, I think, from David Ruffin. Great single.
One thing
Sorry.
I always like with the with German and European 45s, you get the picture sleeve.
Yeah,
it's always nice. Here in the UK, you don't really get picture sleeves, sadly.
Yeah,
with soul music anyway.
In Japan, that's really something totally different.
And even more so.
You get a kind of picture sleeve, but they only add this kind of papers within it. So many singles I got from Japan, they only have these with the, I think can I read the Japanese lyrics to it.
Looks cool though. Looks cool.
Yeah, that's a very fancy fancy picture, but yeah.
because I've got quite a few 45s which are like Spanish or from the Netherlands or from Germany, just because they've got the picture sleeve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to pay a bit more for it, whatever. It's always worth it. It's a nice thing to have, I think.
Yeah.
Very
All
nice.
right, Lawrence. So guys, I think we will be there for the next 15 minutes. Make a last round. We wrap it up, getting ourselves ready for Christmas.
Okay. I'll admit I'm scraping the barrel here a bit, but I did bring out another record from what I took out. I bought another record, which is a definite cheapie by a group called Mass Production.
Yes.
And it's not perhaps a great record, but when it's good, it's really good.
Yeah.
And all of their records are very cheap. I don't know much about them. There they are on the back. It's just good, sort of funky, slightly disco-y fun. And when they want to, they've got this really nice sound, which reminds me a bit of Roy Ayers. But Roy Ayers records are very expensive, most of them. But songs like Cosmic Lust and Superlative, they have a bit of a Roy Ayers sound. Don't have the vibes playing, but you get that for a $5 or less.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely cheap as chips, the way you want it.
I picked that album up, I think, a couple of years ago, Lawrence. It's a good record. You say it's not groundbreaking, but it's just a good funk record, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a $5 or whatever, it's great,
Yeah, and I think somebody recommended it to me, and I sort of, I think it was a seller or something. He said, "I should try it," and I was like, "No." I kind of did it because I've been in his stall for too long or something like that. But I was actually pleasantly surprised. So yeah, nice stuff on it, and sometimes it's worth checking out for those sort of bargain basement artists, because there's some really good things.
Well, that's what we need. Is I see Lavelle there just shouting out tracks by Mass Production. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we need. A bit of guidance to say, check out these ones. That's cool.
Did you know, guys, what I got what I ordered? Didn't get paid for it. A UK guy wrote this book of all platinum records.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're familiar. Maybe you know him. I don't know. Steve Guanori. And he made this whole. You can see it on the back. What all platinum did with all the singles, the whole history with pictures and everything. So that might be something for you guys.
Is that just the label All Platinum?
Yeah, All Platinum plus the All Platinum had also sub labels.
Yeah.
And also includes the sub labels.
Okay. Does it go into Sugar Hill after that?
Yeah, that was Sylvia Robinson who produced Sugar Hill. Exactly.
Because I've got a few All Platinum, which are amazing. I got a really nice Harry Ray 45. Yeah. And there's one I got this year, which was a bit expensive, but it was really good. And I can't remember her name. But
I've never seen the cover of the Johnny Guitar. Can you see that cover? I'm impressed. I have never seen that Johnny Guitar Watson cover.
No. And he's famous for covers, but not that one.
Yeah.
But you get all the singles and the albums and with all the information to it. That must have been taken years to do, and I'm so happy to have that because All Platinum did some amazing records.
Oh yeah, when it's good, it's good. There's some really nice stuff. Definitely.
Yeah. Also the Eleanor Mills, which you can see here on the back, which is also a super rare one. A fantastic record was done by the sub label of All Platinum. Super great record. I think also here Gloria Barnes, this black one. This is now a $1,000 or $2,000 record.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was reissued. That was reissued for Record Store Day about 7 or 8 years ago. I've got the reissue, but I've never seen an original.
No, also may not. I've seen one on Discogs, but it was I think $1,000 or $2,000. I don't know, but I was like, wow.
Really?
Is it my turn now?
Yeah.
Okay, I show you guys two. Hold on, I'll make myself big. So first of all, let's get back to Soul. Carol Williams, Electric Lady. She was actually the first woman who was signed to Soul. and she did some amazing vocal work on this. You can find this between 5 to 10 euro, especially up here in Germany. I see it very often. It seems to be quite famous. Look, this is the back of the record. And she did a track which became a huge house hit. Yes, Love Is You. I'm playing just a short version of this to show that to you guys. That became a huge house track.
Yeah. It's the 12-inch of that tune that you want.
Yeah, of course.
I don't have the 12, but it's got the extended version of Love Is True.
That's a great one. So, sharing screen again. Hold on. I wish they would make that a little easier within StreamYard. Sharing and sharing. If you hear the first notes, everybody in the gallery, you immediately recognize the song. This is, I think, her biggest, I think, sampled that. Yeah, Spiller, sampled by Groovejet for the song Spiller, was a huge hit, and she's still appearing with this one. And you'll find this on the album. Okay, second record I bought because of the cover. Hold on, I made myself big. This is the fabulous Waller family. I found this in Den Bosch, not very expensive, also not in the best possible condition. But this is I thought this was a gospel album, but it's a kind of disco record, and it's a very enjoyable one. So by the Waller family. If you see a record with a cover like this, I immediately had to have it. I mean, look at them. This is a happy family. Look at this chair. My grandmother had one of these chairs. Wow. So yeah, the fabulous Waller family. So if you're into some disco, here we have something.
Nice. I do like a disco album cover, I have to say, especially when everyone's in matching outfits.
Yeah, that's a record that you want to buy as soon as you see a band in matching outfits. There you go.
Yeah. Guys, do we want to make another final round? I think people are still up for it. I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments.
I've got a couple of singles here. I just like I'm just picking out random stuff out of a box of records got here, but I like sort of quirky Moog records, you know, sort of easy listening type things, which sometimes throw up something a little bit interesting. And one of those bands is a group called the Mystic Moods. So they must have made numerous LPs in the 1970s of those sort of nice Moogie grooves, you know. So that's a 45 called Astral Trip, which is quite nice. But the one that I really like, and I think this costs £1 or £2, if that, you know, Mystic Moods with a track called Cosmic Sea. And, you know, as I say, it's like an orchestral groover, I suppose. Very nice. It's been sampled by a number of different bands. And yeah, those are the sort of quirky things to look out for. I say it's on Warner Brothers, so, you know, it must have had a reasonable amount of copies pressed. But yeah, just a quirky little, fun instrumental. Nice.
Do you have some more? You have a whole box. Keep them coming.
I do, yeah, keep going. Yeah, some more. What should we get? Right, hang on. Oh yeah, so how about this then? So a little bit of this is a real cheapie. A little bit sort of it's a big mod tune, I'd say. This is Miriam Makeba with Pata Pata. This was actually quite a big hit all over the world. You know, you'll get this again for £1 or so. I think I paid 50 pence for this copy on Reprise. Yeah, just a brilliant tune. She's obviously probably the most famous musician to come out of South Africa, obviously. But this song itself it's just it's a mod groover. It's just lovely, you know. So really nice.
That's a legendary song. I think she was the first female to appear on Ed Sullivan. African person to appear on Ed Sullivan. She was huge.
The album this is from, the Pata Pata album, is cheap as well. I think I bought a copy a couple of years ago for £5. You know, it's a nice record. The whole album's nice, but the single, of course, is is really cool. And I think that's probably been in my jukebox at some point. Yeah, just a really nice tune.
It's great that Pata Pata, because I'm going to Colombia in a couple of days. where African music is very big. Pata Pata was the first international African song that hit the world, and it was the first African song that arrived in Colombia.
Was it?
And then now, when you go to the coast of the Caribbean coast of Colombia, it's like a big hotbed of African music. They import a lot of collectors of African music there,
Right.
and the whole scene there is kind of local music and mixed up with African music. And it was Pata Pata was the first big thing in the 60s that started all of that off. They got their own sort of sound system culture, which all goes through that, and that was one of the big things that started it all off.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
in the world.
It's probably what is it? 2 minutes long. It's gorgeous. You know, it's just a beautiful 2 minutes of music. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So somebody mentioned Retta Young sending out an SOS, which was a huge hit. But Retta did an album on all platinum. This
nice.
is not cheap.
No.
So if you're looking, also check out the 45s. I don't know if there's a reissue out of this. I found this. Perfect. So, and this is a beautiful album. And she was married to one of the members from The Moments, which were also a huge act on all platinum. So Retta Young is totally underrated. And if you see her work somewhere, she's just stunningly beautiful singer.
It's interesting because sending out an SOS was actually top 40 single over here in what was about 76, was it, something like that? He scraped into the top 40, so it's like a chart hit. And you can find the 7 inches really cheaply. But
apart
again,
from really, really, which I very fortunately have, is not cheap, but that's a really good 7. That's from that. But I think it's got My Man Is on the Way is on the other side.
Okay.
But yeah, I think the SOS one that's a cheapie.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think was the reissue for Record Store Day again? I've got a feeling it was another Record Store Day thing. Was it?
I think it was an expansion job. I remember I got it not on a Record Store Day. I got it just because they were selling it. They were trying to get rid of it. I think they were selling it, the reissue. But it's pretty decent reissue, and it's a very nice LP, definitely.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Lawrence, are you in for another treat?
Yeah, well, I just went, fortunately, having the records right next to me, I could go and pull out a few cheapies. So I pulled out a couple, actually. The OJ's, Favourite Person. This is not a great LP, I don't think, but it does have the tune, My Favourite Person, which is up there amongst my favourite OJ's tracks.
Right.
Just because it's full of joy and quite silly at the same time. And I really like it. And the LP, this cost me £5, I should think. The single is really expensive of My Favourite Person, the 45, but you can get the album, so why not? That's a good one. Obviously, their famous albums to get originals a bit more expensive, but that one, nice and cheap. And one more fairly cheap one here, the California Executives.
Wow, okay.
We were a kind of independent soul group. This is on the Parliament Records, so and you can actually get this a lot. I think this is the US copy. There's a British version as well, and it's very cheap here. And the really good song here, I don't know why, kind of a 2-step number, which is very sought after, but I listened to it the other day. It stands up pretty good. I mean, it's 80s soul, so maybe not for everybody's taste, but if you like that kind of thing, I think this is a decent record, and it's one of those independent records which is very affordable. So
that's cool.
It's a nice one.
That sounds great. I also love this. It looks like an early 80s cover.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean,
look at him. Oh my God, yeah.
The virility there. It's looking very cool. Ronald Dudley and the California Executives, it says,
We'll check that out. Okay, I just checked on Discogs what kind of record I'm showing you. Not that you guys telling me that you wanted to show records on the budget. I checked it. You can get the cheapest version for €2.73. And this is also going back into the 80s. The great Phyllis Hyman.
Fantastic.
So this was from 1986. I had to look it up. So Phyllis Hyman unfortunately committed suicide, I think in 94, because of pressure, financial pressure and all of this. But she was a fantastic singer. Loving You is knowing, no, what was one of her biggest first hits? Loving You is Losing You, or something like this, was an absolutely great record. But also this one, which was produced and also songwritten by Dexter Wenzel, is a fantastic record, and you can find this very cheap. So more love for Phyllis Hyman. She's very much underrated, and I can't recommend her enough. Phyllis Hyman. And there's also a compilation which came out, I think, 2 years ago, a double LP.
Yeah, she has some great stuff.
Yeah,
really good stuff. And I think Dexter Wenzel's doing a concert soon, actually, in London.
Wow.
I think I'm not sure if it's this week or if it's in the new year. I didn't get tickets for it, but it's apparently it's for a very long time. So
John Moreno, we tried to make it on a budget. As you can see, I failed around 2 times because in my mind I didn't pay much, but also that changed a lot. All right, so guys, I think we're wrapping it up at around 1 hour and 43 minutes. If you guys have some questions in the gallery, this would be the time to ask them. Otherwise, I would say a big thank you to Lawrence, to John, and also to you guys for watching it. I had a blast, so it was absolutely amazing.
it's always good fun to talk about.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we just love talking about records. That's what it is, you know.
So Frederick is right. 40 records for $100 a bargain. You're right.
That's the way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So Phyllis Hyman, the best of Phyllis Hyman from 1986. I don't know about that, but yeah.
No, there was a recent one as well. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was with a great cover. I have it somewhere up here. Amazing cover. All right, okay, everybody. We are saying goodnight. We are wishing you guys a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year's. We will be back in January because I already got messages when will be the next SoulStream, somewhere in January, when John is having time for us. He's always busy. He's always busy. And thank you all guys so much. So yeah, I would say have a great evening. Thank you and good night.
Cheers. Thank you.